Okay. Today we're going to be finishing working on the reading section. We're going to practice and yes, we'll be answering as many questions as we have time to. Let's take a look. Okay, guys. So I'm going to send you a link and I want you to please open it. It's the one that contains the reading that we're going to be working on today. Guys, so please open that document. Okay. So it's going to be this reading that we're going to work on. For those of you who are just joining, please open the document that I'm sending. That's the reading we'll work on today. And remember that you have 3 minutes, or you should give yourself 3 minutes to scan the text very quickly and search for the main ideas. Skip the details, look for the main ideas in the text. So I will give you guys 3 minutes starting now, and then we'll talk a little bit about the major ideas in the text and answer the questions. Okay, guys? If you have questions, let me know. Okay, guys. So it says smart energy, right? And each paragraph talks about something else. What is the first paragraph about?
How countries are investing in a smart grid because the energy is gonna change.
Exactly. Great. So that transition that will happen, or that will be between, well, oil production and the way that energy is produced, right? The way that energy is produced in supply and used. And as you said, energy is going to change. The next paragraph, what was it? What is it about? It talks about how this technology works, right? How it works. The next paragraph, what is it about? It talks about the benefits to the consumer, right? First sentence. What about the next paragraph? It's about the first problem, the first challenge. The next is about the second problem. And then they talk about how this technology will be implemented in the future. Okay? So those are the major ideas that we have here. Technically, they describe everything about smart technology, the benefits, the problems, how it works, how it's going to be implemented. And this is like some background, right, as to why or how the transition is going to be. So based now, we're going to start answering these questions. Let's start with the first. It's a detailed question. Let's see. Okay, guys. So maybe, Salma, could you please read the question that we have here? Question number 1.
According to paragraph 1, what has happened in some oil producing countries?
So I'll give you guys, it's a detailed question, which means that you don't have to read a lot. And I will give you guys 1 minute to answer this question. Okay, so let's see. Okay, guys. So what do you think? What has happened in some oil producing countries?
I think it's A.
Okay. Do you guys agree? They're unwilling to sell their oil. Right, so detailed questions, remember the ones required for you to read everything. You just need to identify the keywords. Oil producing countries, right? What has happened in these countries? So we search for those keywords pretty much in the beginning in some major oil nations. It's a synonym, right? What has happened is peak oil has already been reached and there are increasing fears of global warming. Consequently, many countries are focusing on the switch to a low carbon economy. That is what's happened in these countries, right? Peak oil has already been reached. Does anyone know what peak means? What is the peak of something? Peak is the maximum point, right? It's like the top. So peak oil has already been reached. That means that the maximum point of oil production has already been reached, right? Maybe they were something like this. So the peak oil, this is the peak, the maximum point, has already been reached. That means that they are producing less oil than they used, right? They are not producing as much as they did in the peak of oil. Now, as for question A, it says, right, countries are focusing on the switch to a low carbon economy. The fact that peak oil has already been reached means that they are not producing as much as they did. But it doesn't mean that they are unwilling to sell their oil anymore because they don't say anything about selling their oil, right? First of all, they talk about producing oil, not selling oil. And second, we don't know whether they want to sell their oil or not because unwilling means that they don't want to sell their oil. We don't have information to say that. Maybe you can infer, right? You can say perhaps they're not producing that much because they don't want to sell that much. But this isn't an inference question. You cannot draw conclusions or inferences. The truth is what they explicitly say is that the peak has already been reached and they are switching to a low carbon economy. Low carbon economy is basically alternatives to oil, right? So they are switching to something else that's not oil. They are not producing as much oil as they used. Make sure that you guys don't make any inferences. For example, option D is also like an inference, right? Because it says, and there are increasing fears of global warming. So maybe if you read this, you're like, okay, so that means that there's more global warming there than in other countries. But that's of course not true because we don't say that. They just say that there are more afraid of global warming, which does not necessarily mean that global warming is more severe there. So my suggestion is do not make any inferences. Make sure that you just choose a paraphrase of what they explicitly say, right? They don't talk about the supply either. They basically say that they are not producing as much as they do. Okay, so option B would be correct in this case. Is that okay? Do you guys see why?
Yes, teacher.
Right? Let's see, let's take a look at another question. It says, we're going to see. Okay, guys. So the question here says, where in paragraph 1 can the following sentence be placed? Okay, guys, and we have 4 options. We have these 4 little boxes, option A, B, C, and D. And you need to tell me where it would be best placed. Okay, this is the sentence. I will give you guys 2 minutes for this one. It usually takes some more time. Let's see.
Maybe it's B.
Okay. Does everyone agree?
Maybe C.
Anyone else? Yeah, so let's see. What you needed to do for these question types and insert text was first of all, read the question, of course, and understand what it's about, right? What it's mainly about. So forget about the details, forget about the examples and explanations, and focus on the main idea of the sentence. It says, there's also likely more electricity generation centers, as households and communities take up the opportunity to install photovoltaic cells and small-scale wind turbines. So this is the explanation, right? But the focus, like the main idea, the main thing here is that there will be more electricity generation centers. It's about electricity generation centers. That was the first thing. What is it about? Electricity generation centers. What else? Look if you have any clues, any words that tell you the relationship between sentences. You know that sometimes you have words like however, and it shows contrast. Or never, like, as a result, it shows effect. So you have the word also, which means addition. You know, you say first, also, or first, second, also, right? It's like adding one more idea. So you know that this is not going to be the first idea. You know that for sure. And then you need to start going around the options, reading the sentences before and after every option. Let's read here. This transition will lead to major changes in the supply and use of electricity. Firstly, there will be an increase in overall demand as consumers. So do you guys think that we could break these two sentences? Do you think that we can separate them? Would it be okay?
No, I don't think so.
No, right? It wouldn't be okay. Because here they are talking about theirs, they say, right? This transition will lead to major changes. And then they start describing the changes. They start describing what changes those would be. And it starts enlisting. First, the first change will be that there will be an increase in overall demand. So it wouldn't be nice to break those sentences. Then we continue. Secondly, there will be an increase in power generation. So maybe we can place it here because power generation or generation centers is related to power generation. But remember that this is an also, which means that it's an addition to something that related that was said before. So if we place it here, this doesn't seem like an addition to this sentence because this sentence is about demand. So I don't think it's going to be either. It's going to be either, right? Because we can add generation centers to demand, but we could add generation centers to power generation, right? We can say, firstly, there will be an increase in demand. Secondly, there will be an increase in power generation. And there is also likely more electricity generation centers. So there's also going to be an increase in generation centers. It would make sense to place it here, right? But let's continue reading. Then it says, to meet these challenges, countries are investing in a smart grid technology. This system aims to provide the electricity industry with, what about these two sentences? Do you think that we can separate them? Why or why not?
I think no, because this system is talking about the smart grid, and if we put that sentence, it's gonna be like the small turbines.
Yes, exactly. Because it says this system, right? So we have to have a system before. And what system is this? It has to be a smart grid technology. We're not talking about wind turbines, right? The wind turbines, they are not the ones that aim to provide electricity industry. It's the smart grid technology system that aims to provide the electricity industry with a better understanding. So yes, you're right. We can separate these two sentences. Therefore, the only place we can separate these two first sentences, so it's not A, we can place it in B because it's not related to the previous one, demand, and we can separate this other one. So the only place we have that C. Look at how it's related. Secondly, there will be an increase in power generation, but also how it's generated. And there is also likely more electricity generation centers. It's related and it's an addition, right? So option C would be correct in this case. Is it okay? Do you guys see why?
Okay, I thought that we can place the sentence anywhere in that sentence. I didn't realize that I have to put the sentence in the beginning.
Oh, okay. It has to be in the place of that box, in the place of the option.
Yeah, I realized that.
Okay. Okay. But it's a good thing that you realize that now, that you're practicing better than the test. Great. So let's see, let's continue. Another question. This is an except question type. Let's see. So it says, smart grid technology offers benefits to the consumer too, right? This is about the benefits. So the question says, which is of the following is not a benefit of the smart grid technology to consumers? This is an except question type. which means that you have to go one by one, looking at the benefits, eliminating the ones that are mentioned until you get to the one that's not. Okay, guys, I'll give you 1 minute and a half for this one.
I think it's the D.
D, okay, do you guys agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. So it says what is not a benefit of a smart grid technology to consumers, right? Now, first, in order to know what is not a benefit, we first have to ask ourselves, what are the benefits of a smart grid technology to consumers? And we have to find 3 of them that we're going to eliminate from the options. So it says, it offers benefits to the consumer too. They will be able to collect real-time information on their energy use for each appliance. So that is the first benefit they give, right? They mentioned collecting real-time information on their energy use for each appliance. Do we have that option?
Yes, it's the B.
Exactly. You can tell them how much energy each appliance is using. It's just paraphrased, right? Collecting real-time information on their energy use. Tell them how much energy each appliance is using. Real-time, so that means like at the same time, right? Simultaneously. Now they say varying tariffs throughout the day will give customers the incentive to use appliances at times when supply greatly exceeds demand, leading to great reductions in bills. Do we have that option?
Yes, it's the same of reduce their electricity bills.
Exactly. And finally, well, this is an example. We don't have to read it. It says smart meters can also be connected to the internet or telephone system, allowing customers to switch appliances on and off remotely. Do we have that option?
C, maybe?
Exactly. A switch appliances on and off is basically turning them on and off, right? And they're not at home remotely. So yes, the only one that's not a benefit is reducing the amount of energy needed to power appliances, option D. Correct. You guys, any questions so far? right, let's continue then. Right. So our next question says, according to paragraph 4, what is the problem using renewable sources of power? And we have these 4 options. So it's a detailed question. I'll give you guys 1 minute to answer it.
Maybe C.
Right? Yes, do you guys agree?
I think it's B.
B. Okay, maybe. Anyone else?
Yes, I think it's B too.
Okay, we're going to see. So what's the problem with renewable sources of power? We don't have to read everything. I mean, almost never, hardly ever will you have to read everything. In this case, renewable sources of power are keywords. So let's look for them. Sources of renewable energy, right? It's the same. It says, the first problem involves managing the supply and demand. Sources of renewable energy, such as wind, wave, and solar, are notoriously unpredictable. That's it. The problem is that they are unpredictable. Then they say nuclear power, which is also said to increase as nations switch to alternative energy sources, is inflexible. So nuclear power is not a renewable source of energy, right? Because it says nuclear power is an alternative energy source. It's not the same. Renewable sources of energy versus alternative sources of energy. Nuclear power is also said to increase as nations switch to alternative energy sources, is inflexible. Then they talk about oil and gas. So you don't have to read this sentence. It says with oil and gas, it is relatively simple to increase the supply and demand, to match the increase in demand. Okay. With alternative sources, this is far more difficult. And it may lead to blackouts or system collapse. So the problem of alternative sources is that they may lead to blackouts and system collapse. But they're asking about renewable sources of power. So you shouldn't be reading this sentence either. The only thing that you should read is this. Sources of renewable energy are unpredictable. So what option is the correct one then? So it says unpredictable, right? It's hard to manage the supply and demand. That's basically C, what you guys were saying, some of you. They don't supply a continuous flow of energy. They are unpredictable, right? So you don't know, they are not linear. They are not continuous. They are unpredictable. Maybe You have more energy one day, you have less energy the other day. So they are not continuous. Yeah. Careful not to confuse yourself or get confused with different terms that may be similar. And careful with like not reading beyond what you actually have to read. Okay. Is it okay? Do you guys see why C is the correct option in this case?
Yes.
Okay. So let's see. Let's eliminate this. Now question 5 says, going to see, it's about paragraph 6. Okay, question 5 says, in paragraph 6, what can be inferred about cities in the future? Okay, guys? So tell me what you think. What do you guys think?
I'm not sure, but maybe it's B.
Okay. Can you tell me why?
Well, it mentions an infrastructure for charging electrically powered powered vehicles.
Yes, right. So it says, first of all, you do not have to read everything again because they're asking specifically about cities in the future. They're not saying what can be inferred from this part, right? So what about cities in the future? What do we know about cities in the future? First thing it says, cities are prime candidates for investment into smart technology due to the high population density and high energy use. So high population is related to option A, but there's no proof, there's no evidence that can make us think that more people will be living in cities, right? Because I say they have a high population density now, but there's nothing that can make us infer that there will be more people in the future. It's not A. It says it is here where smart technology is likely to be promoted first. So that can actually mean that there are going to be other places where smart technology will be there, after cities. So there's no reason for us to believe that smart technology will only be available in cities either. It's not D. And then it says utilizing a range of sustainable power sources, transport solutions, and an infrastructure for charging electrically powered vehicles. And great, exactly. This is what you were saying, right? If you guys have, or if these cities will have an infrastructure for charging electrically powered vehicles, what does that mean? That means that there has to be, or there is going to be electrically powered vehicles, right? Because otherwise, why will they have an infrastructure for charging them if you don't have the vehicles to charge? So there will be an infrastructure for charging these vehicles. That must mean that there will be buses and cars powered by electricity, right? Electrically powered vehicles. So yes, people in cities will be using cars and buses powered by electricity. There's nothing that says anything about buildings generating their own electricity, and not enough evidence to support that claim. Right? Is it okay? Do you all see the why C is the correct choice? Okay. C. Okay, guys, so what we have next is a vocabulary question. And it says, the word remote in paragraph 5 could be best replaced by. So what do you guys think? If you know the word, this will take you 30 seconds or less. If you don't, it can take you up to 1 minute. So what do you think?
Isolated.
Right?
Option
Yeah,
A.
think. Exactly, isolated. Did you know the word? Did you guess it from context?
I talk about it says remote areas. So I talk about distant places or far away of the urban or populated areas. Unpopulated.
Exactly. So places where people don't, where there's no people, right? And we have a lot of context clues because first of all, it says that it's a problem that these renewable power generation sources are located in remote areas. So would it be a problem if these sources were located in crowded areas? Maybe, but not really, right? In attractive areas, that's probably not. Alone areas, definitely not, because we don't say that some place is an alone place, right? We don't describe places with the word alone. So I don't think it's going to be alone. Attractive doesn't make sense in the context. Like, why would there be a problem with the fact that these generation sources are located in attractive areas? And then they give us examples. They say some remote areas are windy uplands, coastal regions. So think about this. Are windy uplands and coastal regions crowded places? They are not, right? Are they attractive places? We, I think, already eliminated that option. And then they also say there's no electrical infrastructure. There's a lack of electrical infrastructure. Therefore, new infrastructures must be built. So in crowded places, there is electrical infrastructure, right? Because people live there. So it has to be isolated. A place with no electrical infrastructure, a windy upland, a coastal region is an isolated place. Exactly. Then we have another vocabulary question. Let's see. Okay, it says, although smart technology is still in its infancy, pilot schemes to promote and test it are already underway. The word underway in paragraph 6 is closest in meaning to. You guys on time, tell me what you think is the closest one.
I think it's letter D.
Yes, me too.
Yes.
Letter D, you guys said in paragraph?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yes. If you guys know the word, you know that it means in progress, on its way, like on the way. And context, we can also guess well, at least eliminate a couple of options, right? It says, although smart technology is still in its infancy, these pilot schemes are already underway. So they have to be something related, but the opposite of infancy, right? Because we have the word although. A pesar que smart technology todavía está en su infancia, pilot schemes to promote and test it are already, ya están. So they have to be somewhere right there. They're not complete because they say that consumers are testing the smart meters. There's also a number of demonstrations being planned. Trials are in place to test the new electrical infrastructure, right? So trials, demonstrations, tests, they are in progress. They're not complete, they're not permanent, that's not related, and they're not beneficial. That's not related to the topic either, right? They're in progress. They're being tested, they're being demonstrated, so they're in progress. Exactly, option D. Okay. Then we have question 8 that says, what is the main idea of the final paragraph? So I will give you guys, this includes the entire paragraph, right? But you don't necessarily have to read everything. So scan the text, tell me the main idea, and you should already have an idea as well because you've already answered a couple of questions about this paragraph. So what's the main idea of this final paragraph?
Option D.
Okay, do you guys agree?
Yes.
Okay, yes, to describe how, when, and where smart technology will be introduced. Right, exactly, because they talk about how these technologies are already being tested, it's like it's in trials, and they say that they explain how this technology will be added, right? It's likely that this technology will be added in layers, so that's how. They also say where. Cities are going to be the first place where they introduce smart technology, right? It is here where smart technology is likely to be first. So where, how, where, and then they say when, right? Because they even say the year. By the year 2050, changes in energy supply will have transformed our homes, our roads, and our behavior. So it does describe how, when, and where this technology will be introduced, right? Everything about the introduction of this new technology. Exactly. And we got one more question. Let's see. Okay, question 9 says, in paragraph 6, what can be inferred about the introduction of smart grid technology? See? An inference question.
I think it's A.
Me too.
Do you guys agree?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, the technologies that produce the most benefits will be introduced first. How can be inferred about the introduction of a smart grid technology, right? So we look for that introduction of a smart grid technology, or maybe how the technology will be added, right? Well, I think all of this has to do with the introduction of smart grid technology, right? So we have to read pretty much this whole thing. It says, it is likely that the technology will be added in layers, starting with quick win methods, which will provide initial carbon savings, to be followed by more advanced systems at a later date. Cities, and we already this part, right? Cities are going to be the first place where they introduce smart grid technology. And if they're going to be introducing these different solutions, right? Transport solutions, infrastructure for charging electrically powered vehicles. Okay. The technologies which produce most benefits will be introduced first. This is related to what they said about the quick win methods, right? It says this technology will be added in layers. So that means like step by step, starting with quick win methods, which will provide initial carbon savings. Does anyone know what quick win means? What is quick win?
I think like fast win.
I'm sorry?
I think it means like fast.
Yes, but it's like a fast win, right? Like something that's definitely fast, but something that produces benefits, right? Like a quick win, so a quick way to win, pretty much. So it's something that gives you benefits, but in a very easy, quickly way. So yes, the technologies which produce most benefits will be introduced first. Because they don't say anything about the price, right? They don't say anything about whether the cheapest technologies will be introduced first. They say that the quick win methods will be introduced first. They don't say whether these are the cheapest technologies or not. The technologies which are most difficult to put into place will be introduced first. Definitely not, right? Because they say the more advanced system will be introduced at a later date. So the easier systems will be introduced first. Technologically advanced systems will be introduced first? No, right? They will be introduced at a later date. So yes, option A, the quick win methods are going to happen. Okay, guys? Great. So what do you think so far? Do you have any questions about what we did today, about the reading section? Because today was our last class for the reading. What do you all think? Any questions? So I would say this is about, just practice as much as you can. It's very easy to practice reading because most platforms offer automatically graded responses, right? So you don't have to worry about somebody giving you feedback or anything. It's either right or wrong. It's not like speaking or writing, which is a little bit more difficult to practice alone. You can practice this, you can practice managing your time, working under time pressure, expanding your vocabulary, and I'd say mostly just practice. I think you guys are good. Most of the questions you got them right. But no questions really before we go? Okay, guys. Awesome. Then please don't forget today's daily survey before you go. And I will be seeing you all next week. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. See ya.
See you.
Thank you.